Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Victor Zsasz is one of the new villains popping up on the big screen for the DCEU, but it has come to our attention that not all Batman fans are even really aware of Victor Zsasz, his story, and just why he deserves to be feared as a Batman villain. One of my friends even recently referred to him as just a guy with a knife. Just a guy with a knife? How dare you? But while he is a guy and he does have a knife, there is so much more to Zsasz than just that. If you are a fan of the Arkhamverse, then you likely have an idea about what I'm talking about when I say that Zsasz is just as terrifying as any of Gotham's dark and twisted criminal villains. And to prove it, we're going to delve into the top 10 scary Victor Zsasz facts you need to know. So buckle in and get ready to be spooked. And be sure to stick around till the end of this list where I will have some bonus content coming your way. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. His eyes. One thing that some artists have adhered to when it comes to giving Zsasz a consistent look involves his eyes. If you read a lot of Batman comics and run into Zsasz on the regular, a few things that seem to change from time to time involving his character design is the number of tally marks his body is covered in. And sometimes he has hair, while other times he is bald. The Birds of Prey movie seems to be opting for the cropped blonde look, while in Gotham he is going for more of the full bald crazy eye look. But regardless of which hairstyle he seems to be sporting in the comics, he will every now and then have a particular look to his eyes, a very particular look. Zsasz is known for sporting this wild and ruthless look in his eyes, which for many years was presented as a focused glint. This is very the 90s Zsasz. It was like his head was tilted down and his eyes were just two triangle shadows with just like a tiny spot of white in each of them. When he's not sporting this iconic dastardly look, his eyes tend to be wild and crazed, so either way, he's known for having frightening eyes. Definitely not a face you'd want to run into in a dark alley. Number 9. Resourceful. While his weapon of choice is typically a knife, there is nothing that will hold Victor Zsasz back from killing. Even in the No Man's Land story arc where he was unarmed and actually being nursed back to health by a woman named Leslie, he still could not help himself from attacking her and her assistant Mikey and attempting to kill Mikey with just his fingernails. And he actually came close too, he got an artery. When he regains consciousness and is free of his bonds, he aims to kill Leslie as well with his bare hands. Even without a weapon, Zsasz is both terrifying and deadly. So if he doesn't have his knife, you should still be concerned. Number 8. Almost killed Batman. At one point when Batman was training Stephanie Brown, the two tracked Zsasz down to a subway tunnel. Zsasz managed to steal Stephanie Brown away, leaving Batman to come after her, which was a good thing too because although she was putting up a pretty good fight, Victor was about to kill her just as Batman got the literal jump on him. Despite not having superpowers and getting beaten around pretty hard, there is an intense headbutt in this fight that comes from the bats. Zsasz manages to hold his own, with a deranged sense of determination sparkling in his eye. Those crazy eyes I was talking about. He not only dislocates Batman's shoulder, but due to the fact that Batman often does his best not to fight lethally, Batman ends up on his back and getting strangled by Zsasz. In the end, Stephanie comes and saves the day, reminding all of us and Zsasz that she is not a Robin to be forgotten. Number 7. Killed Alfred. In the Injustice comics, Victor ends up being sent to Alfred to uncover where Batman is hiding. When Alfred refuses to give up any information he might have, Victor kills him with his knife, stabbing him a few times playfully before going in for the kill. Damian finds Alfred's body when he's on his way down to the Batcave with presents to celebrate Alfred's birthday! No! Later, Victor gloats to Batman, who shows back up to take him in and uncover just who sent Zsasz to threaten Alfred. Batman obviously assumes that it is Superman. I mean, obviously, this is Injustice we're talking about. Victor even proudly shows off the mark he has made for Alfred on his neck, saying that it is one of his favorite marks. And in the Nightfall story arc of the main continuity, Zsasz actually almost kills Alfred. And when Zsasz discovers that Alfred survived the attack, he becomes obsessed with finishing the job, as he had already tallied the kill with a mark on his body. This is when we really get to see how addicted Zsasz is to killing. Batman lures Zsasz into a trap after he escaped him using Alfred as bait, but was able to apprehend him before Zsasz could finish what he had originally started. Thank goodness. Still, using Alfred as bait? Batman, how dare you? Number 6 was a Man-Bat. In Detective Comics Volume 2, Issue 19, we saw Victor Zsasz transform into even more of a monster, if that's possible. He was given a blade by Emperor Penguin, aka Ignatius Ogilvy, and asked to wreak havoc using the blade and a serum that Ignatius had given Victor to dip it into, promising that it would bring glorious death to all. That serum was actually Man-Bat serum. Knowing that Zsasz was a ruthless and unapologetic killer, Ignatius hoped that he would help to spread the virus and create chaos in Gotham by creating an army of Man-Bats. And he was right, but Victor himself also experienced the horrific transformation as well. An antidote gas was later emitted that turned him back into his old self in the end though. Fortunately, Zsasz was then later captured and of course returned to Arkham, where he always seems to end back up. Number 5. Even killing from prison. That's right, even prison did not stop Zsasz's kill count. Even when he's locked up, Victor has been known to be a great threat. One time when he was locked up in Arkham, Zsasz actually found a way out of the asylum through an escape tunnel. While he was locked up, this allowed him to get back out, kill people, and then return so no one would suspect him, and he could basically just continue killing indefinitely. The thing that gave him away was his MO, which Batman and Nightwing had pinned down at that point. Batman became suspicious because of the way the killings seemed to be linked together and pointed at Victor. In the end, Batman infiltrated Arkham Asylum to find the tunnel and put a stop to Zsasz just in the nick of time. He had just escaped Arkham again, and he was in the middle of attacking Nightwing and probably killing him when Batman apprehended the sociopathic serial killer. Jeez, Victor Zsasz almost kills everyone, just FYI. He comes so close to killing people all the time and I'm like, no, no. Number 4. Ran a children fighting ring. Yep, this happened. In Batman Streets of Gotham issue 10 and 11, we see just how sociopathic Victor Zsasz really is. In case you didn't already know, Zsasz is the kind of killer who doesn't discriminate. He kills the old, the young, the pregnant. Killing children is not below him. In his eyes, everyone deserves death, no matter how young they are. But even for him, this plotline was pretty twisted. It involved Victor being the leader of a children fighting ring wherein children would fight gladiator style to the death. After a few rounds, if they continued to survive, they would get to square off with Victor. What a great prize! Who would then undoubtedly end up killing them. Ugh. Of course, this dastardly plot all fell apart when Zsasz's men ended up recruiting Damian Wayne and a juiced up Venom youth Colin, aka Abuse, for the fighting ring. After suffering a lot of stabbing, in the end these two youngsters were able to team up to finally take down Zsasz in the end and put a stop to his vile plot. He gets stabbed a lot though. He got stabbed a lot, but he survived. Number 3. Kill count. Victor Zsasz is just a really terrifying serial killer because he is so proud of all of the twisted acts of murder that he's committed. He glorifies his killing by keeping account of them on his body, marking his body for each murder that he has committed with a single tally mark, which wouldn't be so intimidating if he only had like 3 on his arm or something. But we're not talking about a handful of marks or a handful of killings here. We're talking about full body tally marks for the most part, covering all of Zsasz's body. One comic from the 90s suggested that his kill count around then was at 143. Still, some artists decide to present Zsasz with more marks than even he almost has room for, showing him covered head to toe in tally marks, sometimes even on his face. Although it does beg the question, what happens when Victor runs out of room? Would he just retire? How will he get them on his back? That's why you'll notice he usually doesn't have any on his back, because I think he's like, I can't, it's hard to do, how do you do this? Number 2. The way he leaves his victims. Victor Zsasz is very particular when it comes to his killings. He usually kills with a knife, he has very specific motives usually, he's criminally insane but he's still crafty and intelligent, and he enjoys posing his victims and leaving them in creepily lifelike positions for people to find. Proving that while Batman definitely has a lot of dark creeps in his villain roster, the Victor is still one of the most disturbed. It's just creepy, it's like you turn the corner and you're like, is that person? Oh no, their throat is slit. Oh my gosh, they're dead. Ah. Number 1. He's got a point. Victor wasn't always a crazed killer. He actually had a respectable and loving upbringing. He came from a wealthy family and after the loss of his parents found himself feeling depressed, despite the fact that he accepted their deaths. He turned to gambling to try and spark something within him, some small amount of feeling, but he just ended up losing everything to Penguin in a game in the end. He noticed that he felt the same regardless of whether or not he had his family's fortune, and discovered that material goods, like life, were pretty much meaningless. Whilst trying to jump off a bridge to kill himself, he was attacked by a ne'er-do-well who sought to rob him, threatening Victor with a knife. Looking into the empty eyes of his assailant, Victor realized that his attacker was just as empty as he was. Victor fought and killed the man, marking himself to remind him that he too was a mere meaningless human. He kills because he believes he is freeing people from the mundanity and materialistic emptiness of their life. And to be fair, there are a lot of unhappy, material-obsessed people out there. So one can almost understand where he is coming from. Not sure if it means that you should kill people, but still, he's got a good point when it comes to his outlook on humanity and life, which is pretty scary that he kinda makes sense. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed this list. Which characters are you most excited to see in the Birds of Prey film? How do you feel about Zsasz' portrayal in the Gotham series? Would you be afraid of Zsasz if you ran into him on the streets of Gotham? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Oldest Superheroes. Annie Moas comments, one of the oldest comic book characters was Namor, I believe. Annie, you are not wrong. That is who I was referring to when I was talking about the other super old Marvel character and hero, or rather anti-hero, depending on your take on the Submariner. He actually fought against Nazis as well, so keep that in mind. Steven Eugen says, never knew that Steve Rogers was based off of Buck Rogers. Also, Marvel was a little on the nose with borrowing the names, lol. You are not wrong, there are definitely some parallels between those two heroes. Both men who are frozen and awaken in the past. Both have the name Rogers in there. But hey, that's comics. People borrow and steal ideas from each other all the time. It's a big part of comic book history. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feels shouted out in a future list. And why not smash that sub on your way down there if you haven't already. This has been Top 10 Nerd and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you as always to stay nerdy, YouTube. See if I can do Victor Zsasz crazy eyes. He looks pretty crazy, that's my best interpretation. That's what I got.